Hi, Jeff Ray here. We're here for the extended version of our show where we're continuing our conversation today about strengthening the tech sector and the tech workforce and economy. Guys, thanks for hanging around for a few minutes. I'm sorry the show goes so fast sometimes. I really appreciate you sharing your expertise and some of the good things that are happening here in our community. Right at the end of the show, Patrick, kind of gave us a quick, here's why somebody might want to be in this area instead of versus, the coast or somewhere else. But it also makes me think more about, kind of COVID and how work is changing and stuff. So Lex, let me come your way. Talk a little bit about, just kind of changing workforce, remote working, advantages maybe an area like ours has in this new work environment.
Absolutely. I think that something that the pandemic has made me realize is that we're probably not going back in large swaths of the workforce is not going back to work in the same way that we did previously when the pandemic is over, knock on wood. I think that kind of the culture and the habits around remote work are only going to grow stronger. And so I think that communities across the US that are similar to South Bend, smaller size, cheaper cost of living, cheaper housing, and proximity to kind of major hubs like a Chicago, really have an opportunity to try to attract new remote working talent to the community. Now, that is a boon to our kind of local economy, but it also creates this kind of talent pool that maybe startups and other growing businesses can pull from once we have that kind of new population here. So I guess I don't really have any questions, but the prompt is, how could we make that a reality? How can we attract this kind of remote worker to South Bend?
Patrick, let me come back your way because you're the people that you work with are some of that tech talent that we'd like to stay here rather than move off somewhere else. Talk about just sort of your experience or how likely it is that we keep or retain some of that talent here in this new work environment instead of heading off to a big city somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think, so our fellows do come from all over, a lot of them from larger cities. And I think, a lot of them have questions about what it's going to be like to live in South Bend when they're coming to our fellowship program. And, I think by the end of the program or even before that, as they get accustomed to our area, I think we've gotten nothing but positive feedback. A lot of our fellows live downtown, so they're, getting sort of that city maybe look and feel that they're looking for in a bigger city in downtown South Bend, but they're also, I think in today's age with pandemic, not having some of the risk factors that you might get in a larger city. So I think it has worked out in some respects in that way. And I think, also working in the startup environment, what I've heard from different companies looking, they've worked with people who are remote and they're asking like, hey, what is it like working in South Bend? Is that a place that, you're having a good experience during these trying times and working there? And so there has been, I think, like renewed interest from a lot of professionals who maybe were going to a city like New York or, the Bay Area to work for these companies. Are realizing, oh, maybe I can, instead of working remotely for these founders, come to the region that they were already doing remote work for and work with them more closely. So those are some of the trends that we've seen since the pandemic.
And Shabir, I'll give you the final word, our last 2 minutes here, just to kind of talk a little bit about whether the environment is ripe and whether we have the support networks and system in place to help those people, I suppose, if they make that decision to be here versus somewhere else.
Sure. I do think we have the resources and we do have the network. I think it's the operation and the execution part which we have to focus on. So for example, we have alumni of Notre Dame, we have alumni of Ivy Tech, Bethel University, all the different colleges that exist in the region. I think it's about being very specific and being one-on-one with these alumni. If I'm living in California and I get an email from my college or my alma mater that, hey, there's this opportunity to come back to Indiana and work for this particular company or something like that, I'm really looking for much more information than that. I would really would love to talk to someone, a representative from the city or from the state, who's telling me that, hey, this is exactly the name of the company, this is the specific role, this is the job description, this is what the cost of the house or the apartment is, this is where your kids can go to school, these are the different restaurants or bars or different places where you can have recreational activities. So when you come to that much specific information and engaging with these alumni one-on-one, I think that really changes the whole scenario. That's when they're much more interested because they have all the information in front of them. And I think the ball is in their court to make a decision of whether they want to relocate back and continue to do the same job remotely from Indiana, or maybe do a job here and working from there. So it's much more about using all of our network, all of our resources, and sharing all of that information specifically with alumni or anyone else we are targeting to make sure that we are able to make this remote thing work.
Guys, thank you for hanging out. He's Lex Dennis from the Drucker Institute in Bendable, Patrick Jones from InFocus, and Shabir Udabin from the IT Sector Partnership at Ivy Tech. Guys, thanks so much for our conversation today. Really appreciate having you here. We'll look forward to catching up, and good luck as you continue to help us grow the IT workforce here in our region.